Ooh, a spicy question. I
because
love
the
it.
writing is sort of everything, right? Like you kind of can fix plot holes, but if the writing isn't
So some
there,
readers love that, and some readers are like, but I wanted more of this. So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. With me today is the Secretary of the Association of Authors Agents, Advisory Board Member at Kingston University, and, of course, Literary Agent at Bella Lomax Morton. It's John Baker. Hello.
Hello, Jamie. Hello, podcast listeners. Very, very excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on. So when I'm fortunate enough to have a literary agent on the podcast, I always want to hear about the kind of start, your origin in publishing. So my first question is, was publishing always the industry that you wanted to have a career in since you were younger?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This was the idea of working in publishing was such a kind of like impossible idea. It wasn't even like a dream because I didn't think such dreams were possible. I thought I think I grew up with a kind of in a household where the kind of sciences were prioritized. Not that like my parents were doing much in science either, but they were still convinced that like science was the route you're supposed to go. And I went from like zookeeper because loved animals, and then from zookeeper to like something in the kind of biology, animal kind of stuff like that. And then as my kind of interest in education kind of diminished, that which was in my kind of like 18 to 19 period, I went off and tried to see the world, see the country really, and just kind of what moseyed around there. And then it was through that it was like, well, I was still reading like 2 or 3 books like a week sometimes, and just generally just kind of just eating all these books. But I never even thought like maybe I could be in that. And then I decided, maybe I'll just try and become a writer instead. And I started, and I swear to God, I'd be terrified for anyone to actually find any of my early writing because, like, it was garbage. Like, good Lord. Like, I've never read anything in my slush pile that was as bad as some of the stuff that I'm sure is lurking in those drawers somewhere. But no, and then I did a English Lit and Creative Writing degree. And then it was through the act of that, I realised writing was far too dedicated and solitary, and kind of like you needed a special kind of brain to be a writer. And luckily I work with lots of people who do have that brain, but it was only from then I was just like, right, well, writing's not it, but maybe publishing. Somebody kind of I've skipped into kind of the biography straight away, didn't I? But yes,
that's great.
It was then I had a lecturer, the great Dave O'Prava, big up Dave, who went on did a lecture about the publishing industry and things you could do with an English degree that wasn't writing, and it was like about publishing industry. And he went on a bit of a rant about the locust of the publishing industry, and all they do is go for coffees and go for drinks and talk about other people's books and act like they're adding something valuable to the conversation, but really they're just taking their like greasy fingers all over things or something. And I was just like, that sounds brilliant. Like that sounds like, and I had like dodgy sales jobs before and done all sorts of bits and pieces. So the kind of like using the kind of like the sales ability and the kind of making like building connection and building enthusiasm for things and connecting with people and finding stuff they love. And using that, all that stuff, but on books, I was just like, wow, I've been dream job found. So yeah, it was the way the publishing was my first dream job when I discovered I even had the capacity to have a dream job. Like, so maybe in that way, yes, it was my first dream job. But like, until it was the first time I ever actually locked in and was like, wow, I would love that.
Yeah, it's funny as well when I speak to like agents, how a lot of them sort of thought they wanted to work in publishing to some degree. Some of them just kind of happened into it, but had no idea what a literary agent was. So a lot of people come in and they're like, oh, I think being an editor would be a cool thing to do, or this, that, and the other. And then they discover, similar to you, they discover what a literary agent is. And then they think, oh my God, that seems like the best job ever.
Yeah, can confirm. It's the best job ever. So much fun. But no, it's true. And also there's like, you get an idea outside of publishing. You have an idea of what an editor does, which is obviously completely false. But you have an idea that they sit there and they edit manuscripts all day, every day, and they like do all the spelling and the grammar. And realistically, we know that's what a proofreader does these days. An editor is really like doing like they are diving in and getting stuck into the book, but they're also doing all the project management and getting everything getting everything in place and getting everything ready and stuff. But either way, you have an idea of what that is going to be. So and obviously publishing is, you'll have had people on this podcast tell you this before, but because people don't know that it takes a village and it takes 25 different departments to make a book exist. You only ever think publishing is just full of editors, when in reality it's full of a broad ecosystem of different talents and brains.
Yes.
And and then literary agents were just one small part of it. And I would argue sometimes we do more of the editing side of stuff and what people imagine editors do than the actual editors do.
Yes.
In my mind, anyway.
That's true.
Yes.
Especially, it feels like now more than ever, literary agents have over the past 10 years or so done more and more and more editing.
Oh, absolutely.
Leading up to submitting to editors and things like that, which you would imagine means that the editors probably have, I would imagine, I don't know as much, but I would imagine editors, that role has become more and more project management than it used to be.
Yes. Oh, 100%. I mean, they still do a lot of editing, and I still do, but I think there's a book right now. If you send a book in and it's miles away from the potential of what it could be, an editor will just be like, I don't have the time to get it here. So I always think of it as percentages, and I try I try and sign people whose book is somewhere in the range of between 60 and 80% ready for submission. Obviously more than that's great. But that's kind of the window. And then I go in and try and do everything I can to get it up to 90%, because I can't get it to 100% ready. Because that's right. And also it needs to be a little rough around the edges so editors know what they have some wiggle room to take it in the direction they need to take it. But and there's other factors into it. So if it's an author is got bags of talent and an amazing profile and can really an editor's going to know how to do it and going to see the full spectrum opportunity, or it's in a very, very trendy on brand on market trend space, then they'll probably take someone a bit rougher. But if it's not that, then you have to be if an editor's just I know how I would do this, but I don't have the time, then that's just not going to get it sold. So you really have to go in and get stuck in these days and get it as clean as possible.
And you've been doing this. You've been an agent for a while. Does it feel like the standard has gotten higher over the years?
Oh God, it's 50-50. I think there are factors in now that publishers are allowing I think, in lots of ways it's a lot harder. And I think if you're it's a lot more competitive. It's a lot more competitive than it used to be. I think just in my 6.5 years of agenting, it's a lot more competitive to get these places and things. But then also publishers, sometimes in some areas, they are just looking for things with proven track record, or with it's, so I don't know if quality is the biggest point of difference anymore. It's not it's really got to be does this work exactly in a way that I can get sales and marketing and the the powers that be, the decision making people, I can get them on side. So even if it's the best written book I've ever worked on, and some of the some of the brilliant books that I'm still looking for partners with, looking for publishing partners with, are just so fantastically written and so ambitious and so cool and so crafted. But because they aren't particularly trend, they're not particularly on trend, it has been more of a challenge than I thought it used to be. Whereas there are books, that I'm turning down because I'm just I just don't necessarily see, I'm not connecting with the, the ability of this author that's getting 10 or 11 offers of rep and going on to make a fortune, and it's just but in those books that are very, very very, very in the zeitgeist on the trend moment. So it's a kind of, quality isn't the be all and end all anymore, as much as I wish it was.
Yes, there's a sort of an element of commercialism.
There we go, commercialism.
We don't. It's not quality and commercialism aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, but they can also work separately. And high quality does not mean very commercial.
No,
Equally
exactly.
commercial does not mean high quality.
No, exactly. And I don't think, and it's not, and also, we got to be careful that when we say commercial, we don't mean like commercial, like as the kind of brand category, like commercial fiction, more of a commercial space or something, compared to how much we think we can sell it. We have a word that we're using for two things at the same time, which is really annoying because I've got great commercial fiction writers who are brilliant and they are so talented, they're so cool, and they're fantastic at writing amazing and cool, interesting books and all that stuff. And they're still writing in a very commercial space, but then separately, that's not the same as commercial as in we'll sell a lot of copies of this. This is a good idea, Anyway, sorry.
And obviously, adjacent to this discussion is TikTok, social media in general.
Oh yeah, of course.
And like this is the huge thing that's made a big shift. I've spoken to a few agents recently. I had Kira Finan on actually recently, and I had her on in the wake of speaking to one of her authors who she had reached out to on, I think it was TikTok. That seems to be, it used to be something that you rarely heard of, where agents were seeking out fiction authors online and kind of reaching out to them. Much more common in nonfiction, but for fiction, it seems to be a growing thing. Is that something that you've started to look into, like actively searching on social channels?
I don't know. I don't do a ton of it. I don't do a ton of it. Like, for me, like I have worked with people who have had like self-pub success before. I've got a couple of people who have done like really, really well in the self-pub space that I'm working with and things. But I think in those cases, like I really got the books and I really went and they kind of came to me more than I went looking for them. But I think it really depends how much you're kind of like hunting specific trends. Like I'm kind of more interested really in kind of like finding books that are going to work even if the trends have kind of moved on, because we're doing like books that when you're working for a trend and the trend is now realistic, if the thing is hot right now, publishing is, and you work with somebody now, unless they're crashing it through, like they're not going to publish it for 18 months, and is the trend still going to be there and things. So like there are books and there's like newer trends that are coming through that are kind of finding their space, and we're still working out with how publishing is going to react to them and how they're going to do them. So I'm thinking like Lit RPG, for example, that's kind of doing huge numbers in the last year in the self-pub space, and now publishing is waking up and having a go, but we're going to find out how good publishing is actually like making that into a viable like traditional market, or whether it's still just like, is it going to be Matt Dinneman and various other people who are doing great stuff, but like is publishing going to be able to do it? So as far as like hunting down, I don't know. I think I would go looking for gaps if I had gaps, but it's not something I've done a lot of. I'm very happy with the list I've built kind of through through kind of my own submissions, but also through kind of like nepotism isn't the word, but like I meet authors who are great, and they're all in great writing communities, and they all know each other, and they're like, and they'll come to me and they'll be like, John, I'm really excited. I'm really happy to be working with you. That we're having a really good time. By the way, can I introduce you to my friend who's a really good writer? And I'll be like, cool. Well, the fact they've already built some kind of community is a massive plus to me. Like, I'm not saying you need it to get my attention, but it is helpful to know that you're already engaged in the scene. You're already learning. You're already doing what you can to be kind of tuned into the publishing industry. So I've met some great authors through that. And I've got great people through my slush pile that have just jumped out at me and have gone, this is a really fun and cool idea. I think this would work. So I try. I'm not wildly I know this is probably badge agenting. I don't care. I know what I like. I don't know what and I've said this before. I want to be working with brilliant authors that are going to be brilliant, that would have been brilliant 10 years ago, would be brilliant now, they're going to be brilliant 10 years in the future, I'm proud of everything on my list, and I try not to be too trend hunting. Really, it's not really like So yes, that's a long answer, but and a kind of rambling one. But yeah,
we appreciate the honesty in that.
Yeah,
and I do hear it a lot. Is because you want to be future proof. You don't just want to be successful in the current trend, which nowadays could last 6 months. It could last a year. You never know.
Exactly.
And speaking of your list, I saw on the BLM website you have 27 authors listed. I guess that's correct and up to date.
So I think I've got about another 10 who are all debuts.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to. So yeah, I think overall is about late 30s, somewhere in that thing. I haven't got a specific number in front of me. I could get it out, but I don't want to crash my computer. So yeah, there's authors there. Like we don't put unsold debuts on the website straight away. We kind of like let them kind of just while we're kind of getting them ready, because you don't know how long a debut is going to be ready to go out on submission and things. And I'd rather be like. I'd rather do all the pitching. Like I would rather be in control of when those pitches are going out and when who's finding out about those books, rather than being too rather than making like putting something else too early. Because I've got some books take longer to get ready, and some like authors, and sometimes like you can be like, or you need to be at the right time in the market to send something out, because there are books like if you know that a book is going to need. There's a chance it would get lost in a very, very busy period, because it is a bit more of a thoughtful proposition. Like you don't want to send it out in like September or October, because it's like that's the busiest time of year. I try and be like, you're trying to be in control of like when things happen as much as you can for in your author's best interests. I don't put everyone on the website straight away. Is the short answer.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I guess that makes sense too.
Yeah,
for reasons as mentioned. So, I mean, on from that previous chat we were just having, how you're not really actively kind of pursuing authors. You do have what would be a pretty like fullish list. You're at 30 something authors. Obviously, you're always going to be adding more, because it ebbs and flows with the way you work with an author will change. There'll be times when you're doing more. There's times when you're doing less. Does it get, when your list does become that big, does it become harder and harder to sign new authors, because you're obviously very aware of how you're splitting your time?
Well, it's kind of, I kind of really see it that I've got. It's actually I haven't really had that much trouble. I am pickier, but really I kind of think of it about like if it's more how many debuts I can have each year. Taking new debuts are obviously the most work, because they don't have any kind of publishing track for them. They don't have any existing relationships. They don't have like books rolling. So putting them together, I try and limit myself to like less than 5 debuts a year, give or take, depending on how and that's getting people. Because if you're under contract, then realistically, the amount of work your agent has to do for you is wildly reduced. Really, I'm supervising. I'm looking for new opportunities and stuff, but that's still like the actual main body of the work is already done. That's in the end. My job is just to make sure the publishers are doing the job right. So as far as like actually getting like new authors out on submission, that's the kind of thing I try not to overstock myself with, because I need to make sure that each one of my debut authors gets the attention they need and the kind of like process, dedication to kind of finding their like first home and things. So as far as like, and the joys of like our kind of area of the market is that, if you're lucky, you can get like, you can, have long publishing contracts, and they can be tied up for a couple of years, quite 2 or 3, 4 years. And if it's gone well, they might just keep going. So, there's authors like, so of my 30 odd authors, I'd say over 20 of them are under contract and quietly I still have to give them attention to make sure they're happy, make sure they like their cover, make sure that we're getting if there's rights to be sold, the rights are getting dispersed and various other pieces. But they aren't, it's not a ton of work to do. It's not a ton of time spent to keep them happy and keep them and be sure I'm adding the value I need to be adding. So yeah, it's more the debuts. I try and be picky about how many I bring in each year and keep moving forward. Because also, not everyone sells first time, and that's perfectly normal. and you got to go. And yeah, so if you have to get ready, if you have to come up with a second book and like give them time to draft and get them supported, or like, and take them through it. And also, you don't really. I'm very bad at giving up. Like, so if an editor, if an author's happy and wants to keep stay on sub and keep trying, then I'll keep trying. I've got books, like my record, I think, is about 2 years to get a book on submission from submission to get a book away. And when it did get away, it got a really good deal, and it was a really good publishing experience. So, like, there's real, there's no point just saying like, oh, I haven't sold it in 6 months, it's over. If I can still have it and I still have it ready, I can still create those opportunities. And as we said, those trends change, the market moves. Things that are like I was too early for last time still might work later. Like, so yeah, keeping not having tons of books out to sell at one time is the kind of thing to avoid, really, more than it is like how many authors you can sign and that kind of thing. Okay,
right. And I would imagine also when you're working with a debut author, they're not going to have as much experience with the industry, so they're going to need a bit more like guidance in terms of like what to expect and how things are than you recently signed good friend of mine, Naomi Gibson.
Yes.
And she has multiple books out. She knows how the industry works, so she wouldn't be like a debut author for you. She would be, she's kind of knows how the game is played.
Yeah, exactly. She's you want to also take the strain off the publisher a little bit with a debut, because there's the more the debuts coming to you and asking questions, the more the publisher can get on with like doing the publishing right, and like and you want to and then they'll be like, wow, that was a really like enjoy the more, and then they'll enjoy the experience more, and then they'll be more enthusiastic to like keep working with them and things. But yeah, Naomi obviously, and various other authors I have who are kind of like already kind of established careers, they're very happy just to keep rolling and like make sure they're doing everything right and things are flowing. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the list itself then.
Sure.
Right, I'm thinking you're open to submissions.
Yes, always. I never close.
Always open.
Always open.
What genres and age groups do you represent in a broad sense?
Sure. So I do YA, new adult, and adult. And my kind of rule of thumb is like I've got the very broad church of like speculative fiction. So anything in the sci-fi, fantasy, horror space, and also I've been branching out into kind of more like crossover action adventure thriller, but are kind of still in a very kind of plot forward, fun, escapist kind of way. Like that's my general bread and butter, is like escapist books that are really, really fun. That's what I love working on. That's what I'm good at editing and stuff. Like I have authors who are writing in a more literary space, but overall, and I still love working with them and stuff, but they all still write books that have like a fair amount of plot. So yeah, so that's the kind of, and then in that action adventure space, it's been like I'm vaguely leaning with a slightly more masculine edge, but maybe mostly not to like annoy any of my colleagues who are already brilliant in the kind of more psych thriller and kind of women's fiction edged thriller space. So I'm kind of leaning towards the kind of heists and Jack Reacher and spies and that kind of lean. But I'm still learning that. That's been a project this year to kind of like build and work out what my tastes are and build those connections. So, ask me in 2 years what I'm doing in that space. But otherwise, if it's got dragons and lasers and spaceships, and then my colleague Julie does the more kind of gothic horror and the more like upmarket dark academia-y kind of. She likes beautiful writing as a kind of forefront thing, whereas I'm just like, if the writing's brilliant, that's a bonus. But if your plot is amazing, then I'm gonna have a great time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so speaking of kind of relatively new, learning about new things, I mean, they're not that new now, but new adult crossover, you mentioned both of those. Yeah. Those are like relatively new categories. And I've asked a few people how to define them, and the definitions are all slightly different. How are you defining new adult?
God. New adult. So new adult, I'm saying it's kind of the kind of plot forward, character focused, like slightly more kind of like so it's the things that YA does really well, which is plot forward, like fun protagonist, twisty kind of escapist fiction, but in a kind of for that kind of 20s to 30s market, and like in that kind of like universe. So that's and if broadly, YA stylings for people with but characters of 18 to 30, and sex and drugs and violence are allowed. Really, like, right. Can happen. That's a very layman's version of what new adult is. Yeah.
Okay, and then what is different about that and crossover?
Oh god, so crossover. There's two types of crossover. Really, there's the crossover, which is the kind of, which is very similar to. There's the age. When you say crossover is in an age category, there's that crossover of like. Which is again, I think, is probably very similar to how I just defined YA, like so define new adult even. But then there's also genre crossover, so it's like speculative edged fiction or like fiction like horror with a more kind of book clubby styling type thing. So it's kind of got that like so there's genre crossover where it's like it's elements of one. It's speculative fiction that could be read by a general reader. Is the kind of genre crossover-y thing.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of how and honestly, I'm in conversations with editors sometimes, and they're talking about one, and then suddenly I realised they were talking about the other one, and I was just like, okay. But never mind, it's fine. It's fine. Half of the agency is making it sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yes. Okay. Great.
Sorry,
we're all only human. That's fine.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, then you covered a lot there, which is great in terms of the broad description of what you represent. Sometimes it's useful just to know, are there any genres or subgenres or age groups that you absolutely do not represent as it's just not right for you?
Well, yeah, I don't do middle grade or anything younger than that, just straight up. I've got great colleagues who do middle grade. I don't get it. And then... well, no, they're great authors. You do have to have a different skill set to be able to edit a book. There's definitely an edge for that thing. And then I don't do non-fiction, obviously. And again, that's another simplistic one. I do the odd non-fiction project if I really think I'm the best person for it. But it's when it's an area you don't work in, like the whole of. I'm giving you so many extra pieces of information to these questions. Apologies for this, but. When you start out as an agent, like the big thing you're building is your reputation and your like brand and your like people's understanding and the value of your taste. So when I started out in SFF, there were books I didn't sell then that I would be able to sell now, because back then my like cultural cachet amongst the editors I worked with was trying to sell to wasn't very high because they'd never heard of me or they hadn't really worked with me yet. And it took 5 years of doing good publishing and getting great books and, and finding books that went on to be successes and getting those signifying moments that say, oh, John knows what he's doing. We should pay a bit more attention to John each time. The way that the world stops when certain agents send their books out and stuff. I'm not at that level yet. But, I'm building that way. And every time you move into a new genre where you don't have a relationship with those editors yet, then you're starting from scratch. So this whole thing with this, like, doing this kind of more adventure-led, commercial fiction, I'm meeting a lot of editors this year who don't know me from Adam. So, they're working. So I'm starting from scratch with those. So as far as finding genres like non-fiction where I don't do that much publishing or middle grade or something, I'd be starting again with those people, and that's just that's a lot of work. So then what I'm working on now is where I've built kind of cultural appreciation. What are you on about? People think I know what I'm doing, in those areas. So I stay kind of in there. As far as I haven't found like satire comedy, horror satire like SFF that works yet.
Okay.
Like Terry Pratchett's like one of my favorite authors of all time, but I still have never found really anyone who's doing it
he was one of one though.
Yeah, exactly. He was one of one. But I get a lot in my submissions box, and I'm just like, I don't know. Sadly, I just haven't found. And also, it's a really tough area of the market. Like, you can't actually I think I've said this on the podcast before, so apologies if I'm repeating myself. It's like you don't even authors who are incredibly successful for their comedy are never actually pitched as funny. You know, the comedy is like a secret thing that they hide underneath underneath the kind of like epic stylings and stuff like that, or the kind of things that's a bit safer to pitch it as, because comedy's just anyway. So yeah, I don't really do much satire. And I'm kind of finding like, I'm not good with religious stuff. I just specifically like anything too Anglo-Christian. Like Good Omens for me was the perfect way of writing about like gods and demons and angels and stuff. And then since then, I've never really, I don't know, call it repressed Catholic guilt or something, but I just can't be asked. Sorry, I don't know if that's too specific.
You haven't read Rebecca Kwong's new book?
Oh yes. I mean, are you going to ask me to say on the record whether I've read Babel or not, like, or the new one? No, I'm not saying. I'm not touching that. Like, absolutely not. Okay. Of course, I've read it. I thought it was brilliant. I have time to read books that long. No, absolutely not.
Okay, great. I think that is pretty encompassing for what you represent, and then obviously what you don't. Last question before I snow you in.
Oh yes, right.
Always love to ask agents. You touched on it before. Right at the beginning of the episode, you said you thought at one point maybe you'd want to be a writer. Now that you've been around the industry for a while, do you think that writing may ever come back? Do you think you'll ever maybe publish something yourself?
Gosh, I don't know. It's hard. Like I had a rainy day on a holiday when I was like, I don't know, I know what I'll do. I'll see if I've got an idea in me, and just play around with some ideas. And I spent the best part of the day developing like an idea, and I was sitting there being like, there's something here, there's something there. Then I went to sleep and I woke up and I looked at it the next morning and I was like, Jesus Christ, no, this is god awful. But I think it's the you know, the crucifix of the critic. You know, like you spend all your time judging. That was good. I think you can have that. You spend all your time judging everybody else's stuff and like coming in and like analyzing everything. Like I get 20 to 30 submissions a week, if not more. And I spend all of that looking at it and making a snap-second decision of whether I think there's any point in it. And majority of the time it's no. So the idea of coming up with an idea that can survive my own rigorous judgmental criticism, like it's really challenging. You have to have so much faith in your ideas to become a writer. And believe that, you know, the time is worth spending to write. Because I have the greatest respect for anyone who finishes a book, regardless of whether it's any good, regardless of whether there's any like market for it whatsoever. The fact is, you sat down and you wrote down 90,000 plus or whatever, how many words, and at no point did you walk away and go, this isn't good enough. I shouldn't be doing this. This is rubbish. You know, that strength of will is what is missing for so many people who are like, I could write a book one day. I've got a great idea for a book. It's like, yes, but can you sit down and write the thing? Like that is the thing. Like, so anyone, and there's all these people out there, like, anyone who criticizes people, you know, it's a rubbish book. It's just like, sod off. If you haven't done it yourself, don't sit there and like, you know, like it's like running a marathon, you know, like, you know, people might say it's boring or whatever, but like they still bloody did it.
Yeah,
you know, that's a really impressive thing. So as far as do I have my own strength of will to sit down and write my own contributions, knowing how many brilliant authors there are out there that I love who have done something incredible, and me being, you know, like the garage band to their, you know, Queen, you know, like, I think I'll probably say for now, no for now. No. But don't quote me on that for when my, you know, epic bestseller like hits the market in 25
never say
years.
never, then. Never say never. But right now, it's
absolutely right now. Absolutely not. Plus, you know, all the authors I owe edits to will skin me alive if I've been secretly writing a book instead of doing the edits that I owe them. And rightfully so. And rightfully so.
I like that answer. So then we're at the point where I ask you, if John, you were snowed in at a cozy woodland cabin in the middle of nowhere, what book do you hope to have with you?
Oh gosh, that's so difficult and mean. While I was talking and listening to myself rabbit on, I was trying to think and I changed my mind on 1,000 answers. Oh, I don't know. Okay. No,
What does your gut tell you?
Oh God, they've got so many options. I'm firing through, and I am honestly flicking through my Kindle right now to see what comes out, and see if something jumps out at me. I think I'd want something that I could read like multiple times and still get something different each time, or like really like get more into it and learn more. And also want it to be bloody long. I want something epic. I don't know.
If you can bind it into one book, you can take it. I say that because a few people have proved to me that you can buy a fully bound Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Well, in that case, and it's only because I've just spent the last 2 days very invested in this man's world. So I'm going to take, and that's a trick question, because if I bind it, you can't bind it. No, it's too big because it's like 10, 20, it's millions of words. No, we can't.
Is it Stormlight?
No, Stormlight would be great.
Definitely can't bind that.
No, I don't know how he printed those. No, I was actually, because obviously a bloke we announced as of recording, a guy that we announced yesterday is now, we're now working together, Ryan Carhill of his epic fantasy series. His last one is 450,000 words long or something, and I'm still working through the series, having a great time. So that would be good. But okay, probably. I'm so annoyed at myself because I always quote this book and I keep telling myself I need to pick some like other things, but Tamsin Muir, like Harrow the Ninth, like Land, or like that series is so good and it's so clever and it's so brilliant and delicious and chaotic and crazy. And oddly enough, the sequel for me is actually like one of my favorite books. And even, the first one is brilliant, but the sequel is just so good. And the way that you can read that book, because I read it first and then I listened to it again on an audiobook to really kind of connect and like really feel how she's like a master of messing with your reader and messing with the audience perspective and like kind of revealing what the book is actually about like 90% of the way through. Kind of just, oh God, this is what you were doing? Oh, I love it. So maybe I'd read that again and see. Well, maybe I'll just take something like I've got the Raven Scholar on my Kindle, and I haven't read it yet, and it's massive, and it's supposed to be brilliant. And I've heard so many wonderful things about it, and I'm a big fan of the people who worked on it. So maybe I'll take that and read that instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those are great choices.
Yeah, it could be something I haven't read before, and then I would have a fresh take, you know. Don't you wish you could go back and delete books from your memory so you can read them all over again? God.
Yes. Books, films, games. There's a whole library of things I wish I could relive.
Oh, right. And you can never get that first, like, it's like hearing a song for the first time, or like just, there's just that moment when you're like, wow, that's changed me forever. I'm never going to be able to be the person who hasn't read that book before. And then you go back and you're like, I want to go back to that world. Anyway.
Well, speaking of,
yes,
this is funny because you mentioned Gideon the Ninth. That I literally have a note on my desktop background to be like Gideon the Ninth add to be read list.
Oh yes, do it right now. I'm so glad I didn't spoil anything in there. I think I don't think I did.
So I'll be able to read that for the first time.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good. You'll love it.
Yeah.
And then Tamsin Muir is a master of being like, audience. I don't care what my readership wants. They're going to get this and they're going to enjoy it. Like this is like we did one thing and then I know you want the same again, but you're not getting the same again. You're getting something else and you're going to like that even more. And it's just like, I love that kind of commitment to like confidence in knowing exactly what you need to be doing and what you need to be writing. You know, that's the dream.
That's confidence in your own writing. There, it's being able to write something totally different.
Exactly.
So, we are past halfway, but next up, we are going to chat a little bit about John's involvement with the Association of Authors Agents, and then we're going to get into the weeds a bit with some querying and cover letter chat. That will all be available on Patreon at patreon.com/right and wrong, along with all the other extended episodes.
Lots of people I work with don't have like crazy, insane links to their books and stuff. But if you do have it, make it loud, make it visible, you know?
Okay, yeah. That's good advice. Yes, cool. I think there's lots of good advice in that. And I really liked what you said earlier about reading a cover letter. You are looking for any excuse to just get straight into to get so excited that you're like, oh, I can save that for later. I want to get into the chapter straight away. I think that's something I'd not heard before, and is really good for people to take on board. That brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much, John, for coming on and telling us all about your kind of career in publishing and everything you've been up to, as well as how submissions and queries are working at BLM and all that stuff. It's been really, really informative and interesting chatting with you.
Oh, thanks so much, Jamie. I've had a lot of fun. No, I promise my last plug, only because when we were recording it, as of the 11th of November, I don't know if you tell people on dates, Stuart Hotson's Project Hanuman came out today, and it's an epic space opera that kind of based with a kind of Indian mythology retelling kind of mixed into it, and it's bloody awesome, and it's out with Angry Robot today, and I would begrudge myself if I didn't give it a little push. So go out and read it, it's great. Anyway, but thanks so much, Jamie. I have sorry for being all over the place. I know my answers are all
that's great.
There's lots of bonus content in there. Yeah, exactly.
We got it was Terry Pratchett style, all the asterisks at the bottom of the page.
Oh god, asterisks and footnotes everywhere. But yeah.
For anyone listening, if you want to keep up with what John is doing, you can find him on Instagram at Agent Baker Books. And if you want to submit to John or any of the team over at Bella Lomax Morton, you can go over to the website bellalomaxmorton.com, find the submission page. All the guidelines are there. You'll know exactly what to do. Good luck with your queries. To support this podcast, like, follow, and subscribe. Join the Patreon for ad-free extended episodes, and check out my other podcast, The Chosen Ones and Other Tropes, with one of John's clients, Naomi Gibson. Thanks again, John. Thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you in the next episode. Shout out time. One of my amazing patrons, Lee Foxton, is querying their debut novel. It's a family drama, commercial fiction along the lines of Jojo Moyes and David Nichols. Fingers crossed. I am rooting for you. Good luck.